So let me share my screen and we can start. And then as far as hold on one second. Okay. So I already made an account on here.
Okay, perfect.
So do you want to just go into this one or
I think you'll go to Jira. Jira as an
this
application.
one?
No, the second one, which says Rafi Chaudhary. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we do this? I have an idea. Let's set up Jira for my actual, like for my employees. I want to manage all of my employees. I have about 6 people that work for me, and they each have
Mm-hmm.
different tasks and different things like that. Why don't I just set this up and have my employees use Jira?
Yeah, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, let's do that. And whatever things they are doing for me and how our process and stuff works, I can explain that to you so we can set it up accordingly.
Perfect, perfect. So yeah, we can start by creating a project. You already see that option to create project as a button.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Now you will have these three options, which is basically project management, Kanban, Scrum,
Hmm.
product roadmap. All these four are different features within Jira itself. Project Kanban and Scrum, like I said, these are different methodologies within the project management itself. Uh, Kanban is something which basically lets you visualize different tickets and on a board, and then you can see who is working on which tickets and they are in which stages. Scrum is basically something where you are able to where you do the entire product backlog management. You define timelines, you define what should be there in your backlog, and then you plan your piece of work or break that work into different sprints, and those sprints can range between 2 to 4 weeks. Okay.
Gotcha.
Product roadmap is nothing but it's a way where you can see all your tickets in a form of a roadmap.
Hmm.
Roadmap is basically nothing but a Gantt chart where you see all your tasks, and then if they have timelines defined within them, that this is going to be the start date and completion date of a particular task, you would be able to see them in a form of a bar graph.
Hmm.
Okay. So let's start by creating a project. You can select the first option, which basically says creating a business project.
We're creating this one and not this one. Why?
So these Kanban and Scrum, these both are basically boards, and they would be part of the
Mm.
project setup itself. So you can create them once we have created the project. Also, you have some templates. If you go back, you would see that there are predefined templates as well. Like if you go see on the left, it says software development, service management, work management, product management. So these are different themes, and within each of these themes, they have created a template as well for you.
Mm.
Okay. Now, if you're looking, give based on what theme you mentioned, which is basically categorizes or falls under work management, right? You want to look at what are the different work which is being done by your different employees. So you,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to work management and see, what that template contains.
Hmm.
Okay, so just go to work management from from the left panel, and this is a predefined template. So basically what happens in these templates is everything is configured based on a theme. So you will
Mm-hmm.
have predefined issue types or ticket types, or you would have predefined fields. You would have predefined workflow based on the theme itself, which is relevant to the theme. So a marketing project would have a different workflow as compared to an human resources template,
Mm.
because those both are different themes, right? So this is something which is by default available in Jira. Uh, if someone wants to, get a quick, just want to quickly, develop a project without much customization,
Right.
without much, much hassle. They just want to quickly build something and just get going and just start logging in their work.
They
So
would
they
just start,
basically
yeah,
use
template.
these use these themes or templates and quickly build a project itself.
Got
So
it. Okay.
you can you can just for the reference, like, just in case if you in future you want to say build something um, for your team and you don't want to go into much configurations, you can look
Mm-hmm.
at one of these themes, and at least that would give you a fair idea about what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Makes
so
sense.
so if not now, whenever you find some time, just look at what these templates looks like. Okay.
Okay.
What
Okay.
are different. Okay. uh, so we can start by the first option, project management. You can You'll have to provide the name of your project.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you see in this project, the initial stages are to do in progress, and then if you want to customize that, you can do that. All you need to do is go to project settings. Uh, you'll see that on the right. Yeah, yeah. Um, you can go to on the left side. You would see there is something called issue types. Can you click on that? Yeah. Scroll down. So we'll just see what all issue types have been configured. Yeah, so this basically shows you that there are two issue types that have been created as part of the project, which is task and subtask, and these are the different fields which have been configured for that task as a field layout for that ticket type. Okay, um, you can also add other issue types like epic, stories. Okay. Um, So I'll tell you what an epic in a story is, because you would have seen that in your job description there is, or somewhere you would have come across these terminologies where there are epics, what an epic is or what a story is. Uh, so epic is something which basically is a large piece of work. If you click on add issue type, and if you search for epic, you would see that it's available as part of the Jira build itself. See epic. So epics basically track large pieces of work, and that large piece of work is then broken down into stories, and these stories, they basically track functionality or features. Okay. So when you specify a large piece of work, this I'm talking in terms regarding to your office project. Okay. Not particularly the kind of project which you're wanting to build for your employees.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, in your office scenario, they could be calling it as an epic, where epic could be um the kind of work which can span within 2 to 4 weeks, like they mentioned, or it could also be a call. It could also be something which can span for like 6 months. Okay, so they would have created epic for those pieces of work where where they have categorized them into two kinds of work, where something spans for like 4 weeks, a month, and some work takes about 6 months to complete. Now within that work, we would still be breaking that down into user stories or tasks. Now, what those user stories or tasks does is you are basically indicating that, okay, if say suppose um, you have to build a feature. Now for that feature base mm, for that feature, uh, what would be the different components of that feature, like as a user, how that feature would help a user, what he would be able to do once that feature has been built. So
Hmm.
all those functionalities, all those abilities which uh, which would which would be built, we create different user stories for that. For example, now I'm switching use case in there. Once you learn, say, Jira coaching can be an epic. Okay. Now, after Jira coaching, um, as part of Jira coaching, what would be the different user stories? One of the user story could be you would be able to navigate through different boards. You would be
Hmm.
able to understand difference between what is Scrum and Kanban methodology. So that would be another user story. So from a user perspective, what are the things you would be able to do once that feature or that epic would enable you, or facilitate you with? So those all those um, things become your stories, and you track those features based on the story. So uh, the acceptance criteria of the story would be, once you are able to do this, so that would become an acceptance criteria that since this is expected out of the coaching, and once you're able, so the basic expectation becomes, or the acceptance criteria becomes, that you should be able to navigate. Okay.
Hmm.
And then there are story points as well. Story points is something which basically indicates that how many hours of efforts that user story would take, to build that user story. So suppose you are building a project for shoe development. Now shoe is a product in there. Now, the initial step of get building that shoe could be getting the requirements. So, the requirement gathering can be one of the user stories. Designing the shoe, or wire designing the wireframing of that shoe, can be another user story.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Hmm.
basically, you're breaking that piece of work down into different functionalities or different features, and then putting that out or logging that into a user story itself.
Hmm.
You can, and this would change basically depending on what the epic is. If the epic is mobile app development, then again the user stories would differ.
Hmm.
Okay. So you can think it from different, different use cases perspective. It could be website development, it could be mobile app development. So in those cases, the development work becomes an epic. And when you break that down into different features, functionality, those become your user stories. And then you track these stories itself for the final deliverable, which is your epic. So if the stories have been completed and have been tracked, have been tested, that's when you would say that, okay, now all that requirements have been captured, have been tracked to closure, and then you can then say that, okay, this piece of work, this epic has been completed because all these functionalities and features have been satisfied and have been fulfilled.
So Epic is basically under, once you create a project, Epic is the next
It's
umbrella underneath that, right? Epic is a individual project within
Yes,
the big project.
yes, Yeah, yeah, that's correct. So Epic is at the top level. They may not be calling it an epic, they could be calling it a small change or a strategic change as well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that exactly whether they are using epic itself as a terminology, you would get to know once you join the organization. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely they would have something which would be sitting at the topmost level where they are saying something that it's a 2 to 4 sprint of work or it's a 6 months work. Okay, so so there are three levels within Jira itself. The project where it's basically a container of all these issue types. So all these tickets are contained in a project. Now within that project, when we say issue types, these ticket types are basically used to specify what piece of work it is. The topmost level is the epic. Then that piece of work gets broken down into stories or tasks. And then if you want to break that again down into different activities, then you have
Mm-hmm.
subtasks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it basically depends on the organization how how granular they want to go with you know defining of a task.
Mm-hmm.
They can go as granular as subtask. And subtask, basically when someone goes into as granular as a subtask, then it could go down into, so this story can take couple of days, say 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. But subtask would go into something like couple of hours,
Uh-huh.
right? So say suppose when I say as an example that it's a it's a requirement. So it's a shoe design, right? Now shoe design is one of the stories. Now when you break that down, you can have subtasks like getting building a wireframe. Now there's a tool someone would take 2 hours to build that wireframe. Now after that wireframe is built, someone would do the UI and UX on it. So now there could be a second subtask to it where someone is taking that wireframe and then building a design based on that. So that would again take couple of hours. So basically, you can go as granular as you can, but there are
Mm-hmm.
these three levels mostly where there's epic at the topmost level, then there are story and task, and then there is subtask.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Now going by your current project requirement, I think task and subtask is sufficient because all you want to see is different tasks which your employees are doing. So you don't need to add any issue type. I just wanted you to know these terminologies, which is basically epic and story, as they may be important for your office work duties.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay,
So
right.
add.
You can come out of the screen by clicking on cancel. Yeah. Uh, so now coming, so I basically explained issue types to you. Now I'm going to come to the second part, which is basically the field layout. Now, like in this particular setup, you would see that there were certain fields, which were configured for task.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, based on your project setup, those set of fields or attributes may vary. Okay.
Okay.
Um, okay. And probably how to see those attributes is when you'll see that there is a top at the top there is a button called create.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So once you click on it, yeah. So you see now a pop-up window has appeared where basically you get to know, okay, which project, what is the issue type. So here you basically select whether you want to create an epic, you want to create a story, or you want to create a task. You define what is going to be the title. The summary is nothing but the brief title of the task. Okay. You can create one.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Now, if you scroll down, there's a description. So here in the description, you basically capture in more details of the task, what needs to be done, or what basically this task will entail.
Okay.
Okay. Assignee. So assignee is basically someone who will be working on the task. So even in your office project also, you would definitely see this attribute. So whatever attributes you are seeing currently on your screen, these would be something which you would definitely see in your office project setup as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And these would be certain details or certain attributes which would definitely be required to be populated on the ticket. So as a BA, you may be required to create these tickets based
Okay.
on once they give you a proper handover of what project it is, how it is being used. So that once you have got that handover, you would definitely be required to create such tickets. They would have since they are heavily using Jira, they would also have a Confluence page where they would have documented on how to create a ticket. So you
Mm.
may not uh, you know you may be wondering that how do you create a ticket, but they would definitely, they should have a Confluence guide to help you with that, that how what are the different attributes, what do they mean, and what is the information which is expected to be captured in each of these attributes. Okay. So you
Mm.
don't need to worry, you just need to check with them whether they have it or not, or if someone who can explain that to you based on what the project setup that's been built in the project.
Mm.
But whatever fields you see in here, they would definitely be part of that setup. So I can at least tell you, okay, if you see an assignee, you know what assignee is for. If you see
Mm.
a reporter or summary or description, you know what those attributes mean for. But if there are some additional attributes, I think you would they would definitely give you an handover for that.
Mm. Okay. Got it.
Okay. So assignee is basically someone who is actually accountable for that task, someone who is doing or who is working on that task, someone who is um, tracking that task. He is moving that task through different stages. He's working on it. He is also doing the testing on it. He's doing everything related to that task because it is assigned to him. Okay, so he's basically accountable for anything that happens on that task.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Okay, so you can assign it to anyone.
Whoever I assign it to will basically will be the one to manage the project and take it step by step through the each, you know, like this is the
Yes.
project manager, basically, whoever I'm assigning it to.
Yeah, and this can also change. So once you have specified the assignee, it does not mean it always remain the same. The assignee could also change between the stages. So suppose once from backlog to prioritization to requirements gathering, say BA is involved. So
Right.
BA would be the assigned. But once everything has been done and it moves to a design stage, so the same ticket can be assigned to someone from the design team, and then they would do their design piece of work and then reassign it. Once they've done the design work, they can then assign it to the develop. They can assign it back to BA. BA can then assign it to the developer, who would then take that forward,
Mm-hmm.
and same way also move the ticket to the development stage as well. So
Mm-hmm.
when we say assigning, it doesn't mean that it always need to through all the stages. It needs to be, once you're specified, you cannot change it. You can
Mm-hmm.
definitely change it in between the stages as well, if the piece of work or if the action owner changes.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, makes sense.
uh, the next is priority. So priority is basically where you define, your the priority of your task, how you want to categorize it. If there are, say, hundreds of tasks, right, or loads of tasks, you may have to define this priority uh, so that you can indicate that, okay, if there are 10 items under your name, you would categorize them into different priorities, so that when it comes to daily stand-ups or scrum ceremonies, you can say that, I have these 10 items under me, and these are the topmost priorities that have been given to me. So I'm working on these three tickets or two tickets. So the priority basically helps in indicating that, the piece of work which you are, if how you basically can prioritize your uh, piece of work or your task, which ones you are doing, because you cannot do all the 10 items at the same time. So you need to define the priority and then accordingly work on those tasks. So the priority basically helps you do that, prioritize among within your task itself, not just the priority among, the overall priority, but this is your individual priority where you manage your individual workload.
Mm. Okay.
Label is something which is a free text, so you can add in. These are basically tags, like how in Instagram or social media we add hashtags, right? So this basically labels allow you to, uh, say add tags to certain tickets, and then if you want to basically identify all the tickets which have the same label, you can also do that as well. Okay. So say suppose, year could be a label or month could be a label, where you are basically wanting to see all the tickets which have been, which are currently being worked on, or which have been created in, which are part of the 2024 year as book of work. So the labels could be basically be anything. It's a free text.
Mm.
It's totally onto you how you want to use it.
Okay, makes sense.
It could be your product or work stream itself. So it could be anything. And you can add multiple labels. So there's no
Right.
restriction on how many labels you want to add. The only challenge with using labels is it is prone to human errors, because if, say, suppose you have entered July, as in JULI, all in small, somebody can add J in capital, like all in caps, or J in caps. So that result into data quality issues. And say someone is searching for anything, everything, all the tickets in July, right? So now in that case, because there is data quality issues, you may not, it may not give you all the accurate results. It may not give you the correct search results, because somebody has used lowercase, somebody has used uppercase.
Got it.
Right. Now next is due date. Due date is something like I mentioned that, you capture when you are going to deliver that piece of work. So that is also something which we capture on the ticket, and it basically feeds into roadmap or Gantt chart, where you basically, um, you know specify that, by which date you're targeting to complete that piece of work. You also have a start date as well. So the start date and due date are nothing but your start date and completion dates. Original estimate is again something where you are basically specifying how much. how many, basically the specifying the efforts. So 7D, 1W, that's the format in which you specify the efforts.
As far as
Uh,
how I choose to use these categories and date and what I put here, how I structure, it's all really up to me. There's no set in stone way to do this.
correct,
It's just
correct,
giving you a
correct.
template to work with different features and functionalities and blah
Yes,
blah blah. So companies
yes,
can use Jira in any way that they want, ultimately, right?
correct, correct.
So
Yeah,
so
that's
when I go in this Monday, right, and they say, well, this is how we do it, or basically if anytime they ask me any question, I could just give them whatever I answer and say, well, that's how I did it at my company, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
just
You
make
can
up something and
definitely.
say, well, we didn't do it like that. We did it this way instead.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It varies as per different organizations. It
Okay.
varies as per different themes as well. Like I said that the HR department could be using Jira differently than a marketing department, right? So
Hmm.
even within an organization, within different departments, also the functionality varies because the process is different.
Hmm.
The process is different, the product also change varies as per the organization itself. So there are so many variables, within a Jira setup itself, that everyone can use it as per their own process build process build itself. So definitely there's no room for there's nothing right or wrong. You can
Mm.
definitely say that this is how you used to use it, and this is what you used to do.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. So now you basically know that okay, this is how a ticket is created. You can click on create and submit it, so that at least we have one ticket to play around with. I'll also next. So the next thing which I'll so category, currently I think no category has been configured. That's why you don't see any options in there. So you can ignore that attribute.
Okay.
Okay. You would see a team as well. Okay. Now, team is a very beautiful functionality within Jira, where you can create multiple teams. Okay. Um, you Why I say it's a beautiful functionality is because different organizations, they can, based on their process, they can create different teams and
Hmm.
then add different people to that team. So say someone wants to look at breakdown of work. Now
Hmm.
it could be marketing, it could be so that becomes at the high level: marketing, HR, development, design. So that becomes a high level. But say someone wants to look at a level beneath that, a data analyst, a business analyst, a project management team. So even at that level, people can configure their project. They can use team. Team is a very flexible functionality where they can either use it um, based on different roles,
Hmm.
um, to see what are different tasks BAs are doing, what are different tasks data analysts are doing, what are different tasks design team is doing, or they can also visualize tasks based on different departments. So team can become a department as well,
Hmm.
marketing team. Okay, so it's a very flexible functionality where you can. It totally depends on the organization how they want to use it, and you can
Got it.
add people to it. So basically it also allows you to see, okay, what all people are part of the team,
Hmm.
right?
Makes sense.
Linked issues. Now you may be wondering what this linked issues is. Now this linked issues is again a very very beautiful functionality which basically allows you to link dependencies. So suppose you have a task, and now that task is dependent on someone.
Hmm.
It could be dependent on another team. It could be dependent on another BA within your team as well. So it basically allows you to add that dependency in, where you are basically saying that you are not able to do this piece of work
Mm-hmm.
because it relates to. So you will have different kinds of relationship when you select on that blocks button. You would see that there are different relationships, and you can select each of those relationships based on what linking it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So you basically select what kind of dependency it is, whether it's a child-parent relationship, whether it's a duplication relationship, whether it's a blocker kind of relationship, or whether it's a dependency kind of relationship um, where until unless something is being
Like
done,
one
you
task is
cannot.
dependent, or like it shows the relationship between one task to another task.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
And
you
there
can,
are two-way dependence. Once you do this linking, it's a two-way street. So say suppose you say blocks for an example, and this ticket blocks uh, another ticket. Now,
Mhm.
which basically means that the other ticket which we are linking with it cannot be completed unless this particular task has been completed.
Mhm.
Okay, so for that task, the relationship would become is blocked by. Okay, so blocks and
Mhm.
is blocked by are basically part of the same structure, same
Mhm.
construct, wherein for one the relationship is blocks, for the other it is blocked by.
Okay. So,
Okay,
okay.
so here basically you are specifying that for a particular ticket, which ticket is a blocker, or if something cannot be done, then what it is waiting on for, which ticket it is waiting to be completed so that a particular task can be picked up. Okay, so this linking basically helps you link two tickets together.
Okay.
Okay,
So, okay. So what do I choose here right now? Just blocks?
no action as of now, just wanted to highlight that you would also see this as a functionality within your project setup as well. So just wanted to indicate that what it does, what it allows
Mm,
you to do,
I
what can you
gotcha.
do with it. Okay.
Okay, makes sense.
So now you can just click on create button and it would create the ticket based on whatever attributes you have specified. Uh, on the left you would see a notification. You can click on view issue. Bottom
Uh,
left, bottom
sh
left.
okay.
So now since you have created a ticket, this is how it would look like. So this basically gives you a view on, once you create a ticket, how would it look like? What are the different actions you would be able to do?
Got it. Okay.
Okay, what are the different options you would see on a particular ticket? So now you see that um, you have an option to create child issue. Now those child issue is basically nothing but creating subtask. So now if
Mm-hmm.
you want to further break this ticket down into uh, more activities,
Mm-hmm.
you can create child issues for those activities, right?
This
So
whole thing is the ticket, right?
yes, this whole thing is the ticket.
Okay. So, mm.
You can add attachments, so just see what all options you have, because all these options you would see on the ticket in your work setup as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. uh, at the bottom you see there are certain tabs which basically say comments, history, work log. So comments is something which would give you the entire log of comments which is there on the ticket. say you add a comment, the reporter may also add a comment. Right now both people are the same, but in project setup they would be different. Reporter is someone who is who has requested for that work to be done. Assignee is someone who is the action owner, who is working on that ticket. So basically there is progress updates which is shared between assignee and reporter. Or there could be another person which could be delivery lead or project lead in there. So there would be an entire communication thread which would be captured under this comment section in there.
Right. So anybody that's part of the project can see everything that's being said here.
Yes, you would be able to see anything or everything which has happened on the ticket on the
Mm-hmm.
comment section itself. All the communication that's been happening with the different stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
be it internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. All the
Mm-hmm.
communication you can see in there.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Okay.
click on that history tab, you would be able to see all the activities which have happened on that ticket. So any
Mm-hmm.
attribute updates, so any field updates, you have updated any value, that would be captured in there. Any status updates, it would be captured in there. So any
Mm-hmm.
activity which is basically happening on the ticket, it gets logged under the history. So you can basically see all the historical data, all the audit on the ticket, basically, what all has happened on the ticket. If it has got reassigned, if it has got you know anything which has happened on the ticket, you would be able to see the entire history, uh, entire activity log under the section, which
Mm-hmm.
basically sometimes would give you a good insight about, okay, this person has had moved this ticket, or this person has had updated the attribute on this ticket. So if you see something wrong being updated, you can this allows you to call that out immediately, because it gives you all the changes which has happened on the ticket.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
uh,
So let me we can what as a first thing what we can do is we can take everything that I have set up in Asana right now and just build this back out on Jira. So we can start using Jira. So I have all my
yeah,
employees on here right now. Like for example,
yeah,
Guntaka, all his tasks. These are things that he's working on right now. And
yeah.
then myself and a couple other employees, they have just very basic, I mean just the name of the task and then what happened with that task. So why don't I just take that to us Jira.
Yeah, so probably I think we can end our session in for today. And what you do at the end is you start creating task. Moving all the items which you have created in Asana, and you start creating logging those tasks in here. Okay, once you have created those tasks, is we'll again catch up today around same time which you mentioned yesterday, right? Around, I think it was 10:45 or 10:15 which you mentioned, but you were
Hmm.
traveling yesterday. So, but what we'll do is we'll use the same timing and we'll catch up again today. I think in some hours, uh, and we'll build a board. I'll show you how you can build a board, and you can visualize since you will have those tickets in. I'll show you how you can visualize each of those tasks which you have logged, which you have created, how
Okay.
you can visualize them. Okay. And that would also help me showing you, I'll also explain both the terminologies, like, how a Kanban board would look like, how a sprint board would look like. So based on
Hmm.
all the tickets which you have created, we'll create a Scrum board and we'll
Hmm.
also create a Kanban board. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So does that sound good?
Yeah, man, whatever time you have this week, like I said, I'm trying to learn as much as I can. So as soon as you want to meet, let me know. I'm very free.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we'll mostly, I think, we have covered a good part today. Like we
Hmm.
have covered issue types, we have covered attributes, we have
Hmm.
covered workflow. Okay,
Hmm.
um, we have covered different functionalities which are available on a ticket.
Hmm.
Right. Um, So yeah, we'll get into more detail now. We'll get into creating those boards, configuring the boards, how you will be moving tickets through the boards. Okay, because that would be something which you would definitely be doing, where you would be moving items through the board itself. So that would be part of your day-to-day activity. So we'll be covering an important part as well. Uh, okay. So yeah, so we are good. Just create these tickets, and then we'll probably let's connect again today, and we'll try to cover as much as possible before your first day tomorrow. And probably um, once you have uh, once you've got hands on what your current organization how they've set up their project, we can probably also see how if there's something which we need to build around that in your in this environment itself, so that that would help you in your project environment as well. So if there's something which we need to cover additionally, we'll also look at that. So probably your first day would be really important for me as well, because it would give me insights on what how the project setup is there in your project environment as well, how they are using it. So if they have something which probably you're not aware of, you can definitely make pointers on that, and then send me those pointers. So what I'll do is I'll cover those topics as well, so that you are aware that what those functionalities are, right?
Hmm. Makes sense. Okay.
So if
What?
you see whatever we cover by end of day today, if there is anything which you see that we have not covered when you join your office, if you notice or observe anything that this is something which you saw in their environment and you didn't see in we haven't covered it, feel free to note that down, so that whenever we meet next, we cover that as well, so you are aware basically what that functionality is for. Okay.
Okay. Got it. What time
Yeah.
did you say you wanted to meet?
uh I'm just cross checking our WhatsApp message. I think you mentioned.
You don't have to worry about what I mentioned. I'm free literally all day, every day. So you tell me when, how much time can you give me and when? Right now, like my goal is just to spend all day, every day studying. Anytime I'm free, I want to do this. So we can meet 1 hour a day, 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, whatever you think you can afford to give me, I'm willing to meet.
Yeah, so let's connect 10:45 a.m.